It's like a dirge for civilization. And it's not subtle, it's like a choir. This flashlight isn't even adequate for this. But I guess we'll push on just a bit. You know, I think I found the association between these feelings and train tracks and power lines, and yet another reason why this mud maps so well onto this game. It's perfect for zoning out and following along. All you need to do is stay within the lines, and it goes on forever. Not a thought required. Watching all of these things come at us one at a time, like ideas materializing in our dreams. It's almost like it doesn't exist until the moment it's only feet away from us. Hey, a weapon for us. Once more, I'm not sure what I'll do with it, but I'll surely do something. What was that? No, seriously, what did I just pick up? Was that maybe secondary ammo for the pulse rifle? I guess I'm wielding another shotgun now. Okay, I don't need that. Where am I going from here? When I'm indoors, all I want to do is get outside into some fresh air. When I'm outside, all I want to do is get in where I don't feel so watched by the sky itself. You know, for a game that has stopped telling its story, it's kind of weird the range of emotions I felt when going through this. Hopeless, defeated, free, and sometimes just plain sad. You know, for a game that has stopped telling its story, it's kind of strange how wide a range of emotions I felt. Hopeless and defeated, if you look at it from the perspective of Gordon's failure dream. And at times sad for the loss. Free because the world is ours. And with a huge sense of dread at being the only being left to perceive everything and nothing forever. I actually feel like just kind of resting here, honestly. I mean, above the blood stains, as long as we stay on the mattress, we're fine, right? And I have been on my feet for about 4 or 5 hours now. It's definitely... it's a much more tiring and draining experience playing this in VR. And not just for the added physical challenge of having to stand. I think the density of the oppressiveness, it really starts to wear on you. Like I said, to the point where even a while back when I took a break, I still felt it. Just getting it ready for me, are you? Hey guys, you forgot something. Oh, there it is. Okay, I knew you wouldn't forget me. Hey, whoa!
Major fracture.
Yeah, hey, it was only in that moment that I realized I've yet to actually try to climb down a ladder. There we go. Okay. What we are going to do for the next while is lower the game volume. Excuse me? And the reason we're going to lower the game's volume is because, well, as you heard, that was kind of insanely loud. And I would like the music volume to remain a little higher. Maybe we can lower that just a tad more. Okay, I'd say that's fine. It's just for however loud it'll be when it gets to you, it's deafening in my ears. Now we just need to make sure... Sorry, it's a lot of menus, but now we need to make sure that our lights are right. So... very high, very high. Look at that, we can actually see all the pillars of industry over there. Literally. But our journey down the coast begins here. You know, it probably feels in-game like there's a bit more of a gap between one vehicle section and the other. But it's crazy how quickly you move along when there's no resistance. But if we climb this hill... we'll reach the road and become unstoppable. Oh, and by reach the road... I mean, yep, jump this gap. For a second, I almost doubted there was one. But why would there be a ramp otherwise? Yep. Well, it didn't matter. Doesn't this thing have some kind of, like, turbocharge? Alright, maybe we try sprint for turbo? Yep. A little bit of a wiggle there. Yeah, stick-based anything in this does not control well. Because you never know which of the directions it's actually going to pull. Yeah, look at that, some health. I could very much use it right now. Ooh. That is super bright on foot. Oh, you're actually going to make me pick it up. That's actually kind of neat. I feel like I was swinging a cartoon mallet with that one. Whoa, that is not what was in front of us for a second. It was a pitch black wall, and then it was the end of the road. Let's turn this around. Yeah, this does not turn quite as readily as the airboat did, does it? Easy does it. Oh, look. Sunrise over the beach. Although we don't really get to enjoy it, knowing the sun never actually rises. Now, there is actually a setting, one of many, where the sun can actually rise at the point it's supposed to in the story. However, we're not doing any of that, of course. You know, it's only the most passing physical resemblance, but just something about the texture of this place. I can't help but be reminded of that famous painting, Isle of the Dead. Like I said, structurally, it bears almost no resemblance. It's just the way this whole area comes across. Can we get inside? Not from here. I think typically what we'd have to do is go up through the basement and open it. But there's not much reason to play around with stacking right now. So let's just keep it moving. Oop. Yeah, this may be a tad faster, may have a little bit more power. Well, I won't say under the hood, because that doesn't seem like it would be accurate. But it doesn't control nearly as well as the airboat. Ooh. And the LOD is causing these mountains to just shape and warp in our peripheral vision. It's so weird. Yeah, I thought you were swaying in the breeze. That door is really giving me the creeps. Such creeps that I feel like I could use my handy-dandy safety magnum in clearing this place. Also, I sort of worry that the music volume has gone down with the game volume. Hang on, let's, yeah, I think maybe the music volume only applies to, the actual in-game music. But I think the song panel is considered something else. Whoa. Well, that could have been an unfortunate accident. Are we able to... hang on. Look at that. We can actually peek through. A distant shipwreck. And walking away undoes that. Oop. You know what's creepier about that door? There's just not very much in the game that behaves that way. Especially in Alone mods, so much of the world is completely still until the very moment you interact with it. So when that's not the case, it feels like more than just the world. It's like seeing a spinning chair when you open a door. It's like somebody took off because they knew you were coming. Just a ride down the coast. Before the end, people used to do stuff like this for vacation, didn't they? I suppose it's a vacation again in this mod. And I also don't suppose there's any reason to shut down these antlion thumpers. Huh. Here already? Feels like only minutes ago we were in Ravenholm. Well, I guess that doesn't do anything for us right now. Why do I get the same feeling as this? Why do I get the same feeling from this as like returning to a childhood home to find it abandoned? Like, I don't know. I feel a weird sense of nostalgia, and of course not just because I've seen this place in Half-Life 2. I mean, the only nostalgia I would have for that is defending it from a Combine attack. And getting to use the rocket launcher for the first time. By the way, I wonder if that can actually be found in the basement right now. I don't know, something about this feels more personally nostalgic in a way. But then again, have you ever had a dream where you're in some place that you recognize and you know exactly what it's supposed to be, but then you wake up and you're like, wait a minute, that wasn't that place at all. I think one of the most interesting things about dreams is the ability to impart almost an idea onto something without actually having any physical resemblance at all. Well, just one more rust bucket, I'm in the rust buckets. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time speaking today. Okay, all the rockets we can get. I guess that's all the rockets we can get. How's our health doing? Pretty good. We only need suit. Way to go, loading. You killed my braking action. I've realized another similarity to Isle of the Dead. The color palette. Yeah, I gotta get my kicks where I can, right? And besides, I could genuinely use some of this stuff. Oh, what? Am I not able to pick up these grenades? I thought I errantly used one earlier. You know what I bet the difficult thing about porting Half-Life 2 to VR is? I bet it's not even anything to do with, like, the basic mechanics. Like, sure, everybody says, yeah, but once you get that done, you just kind of let the game roll, right? Well, no, there's a lot of little moments like this where you do weird things like operate a crane or look through binoculars, and it's stuff like that that really, I think, has to be worked on. I wonder how many times during playtesting they would get to a segment and think, oh man, we have no answer for this. Come on. I want to talk more about that sense of hopelessness that I brought up. Because the soundtrack that's playing right now, however faint, it just gives the idea of everything being said and done. That there's nothing to do. In almost all media, there's always some sense of looming danger. It may feel like there's nothing you can do about it, but once it's over, that's a very different thing. Starting from a place of it already being over. Okay. I think all I have to do is drop this, because I parked directly underneath the shadow of it. Don't ask me how shadows are working in this night. Now let's swing this baby around. Ooh. Oh, mother of mercy. You're getting a little low there. That's because the crane controls appear to be inverted. Wow. And turning left is the same... Oh my god. Bear in mind, I can hardly see any of this. Yep. I'm gonna need that car to come off. Oh, this is a huge problem. Actually, maybe not. Maybe not. No, come on. Okay, so don't use the flashlight in the vicinity of cranes either. This thing should come with an operations manual. Me down? By which I mean grabbing on with one hand while falling? Oh, okay, you did fall off. Great, but that thing still needs to be knocked down. Okay, back up with us. Once more, it's hard to do when you can't actually see over there. I'll tell you what, though, my ladder climbing game has gotten a lot faster. Let's just swing you wide. And it doesn't quite make it. Oh, this is going to be a whole thing. Why is the up and down inverted like this? Okay, that's a boop. And a boop. Thank you very much. I'll be taking my leave now. So now we can cross that bridge, because we have certainly come to it. I would like it if you were out of the way. Make this as easy on us as possible. On the bright side, the apocalypse is a great opportunity to get out some unwanted aggression. crash. You know, I don't feel it quite as viscerally as in the airboat, but you definitely do bear the brunt of the impacts with this thing. Are we jumping again? Looks sort of like it. Whoa. Oh, watch out for that wall. Hey, I ended up facing backwards again. Okay, I think this is going to be another job for ye old grav gun. AAA. I'm here to help you with all your broken vehicle needs. I think car insurance works sort of like murders, where if there's no body, they can't prove anything. Right? Once more into a tunnel, my favorite place. I'm very off-put by that bottle that was just slowly rolling across the road. That's the thing, every once in a while, even if it's just an artifact of the physics engine, you'll see something that makes you just wonder if you're actually alone out here. Well, that makes my life a little bit easier, doesn't it? Beware of rock slides, they're dangerous. Dangerous like a gun mounted on my vehicle. You know what is kind of cool is that in the dark, even the simple act of turning all the maps to night makes all the light sources that you didn't realize were light sources stand out more. Like these poles on the edge of the Combine outpost. Ugh. You know what's actually doing a lot for me right now? The fact that there's haptic feedback simply from rolling over the road. It actually gives the impression that the road is rough. So it gives the Jeep a sense of friction that the airboat doesn't have. Hadn't even registered with me until now. So of course we've got to check this out. Now, this blood may have been here in base Half-Life 2, but this whole place is so understated, And yet with this one room that's just a horror show. You know, the game wasn't even designed with this in mind, but again, coming off of the Silent Hill comparison, when things are framed this way, I feel like every room, like every area, is meant to be telling me something. I've always found this house in particular really, really creepy, because we've seen a third floor, and we can't find any discernible way to reach it. It's like it just doesn't exist. Now what I'm hoping, given that this is VR, is that we'll be able to climb up here and get onto the railway tracks without having to deal with the whole underside of the bridge. Because that's difficult enough in flat screen. Come on, need some momentum. There we go. And we're stuck. So what that means is that this is a job for a grav gun. Come on. That made it worse. That made it way worse. Look at that image. Yeah, you know what? Whatever. You're just sticking to the sides now. I don't know how we're going to get out here. There's not a lot of room to maneuver. And we're actually less precise than WASD now. You know, it's not just the sounds. This thing controls a lot like the Voices of the Void ATV. Actually, there's much less precision needed. It's going to be a bit more power, but we have more room to hit it. We can probably get up here. So let's try it. Yep. See, that's what saves it. We don't need to be precise. You are stuck on that piece, but this is where the grav gun can help. Thank you. I don't know if it's LOD or the sky or what. This just feels like a bridge to eternity. And now it doesn't. No, now it feels like a bridge into the mouth of the beast, but thankfully the mouth is closed at the moment. Alright, let's get that flashlight working again. Okay, now in the base game, we would spend some time screwing around in the side tunnels with head crabs. Here we can just sort of clear the way. I didn't expect it to hit the ceiling so close. Shrapnel in my teeth. Any closer and my teeth would become shrapnel. There's some blood here. Well, I guess we're not going this way. We would enter from back there. I don't really care that much, to be honest. At this point, I just want to keep moving. Dream logic, a sense of drive toward an objective without even knowing what that objective is or what you're going to do when you get there. One thing I will say, for a relatively lightweight vehicle like this, it definitely does a pretty good job of clearing the way. Look. I swear I just saw a head move in the top left window, although I'm pretty sure it was just an object. People talk about Ravenholm. They talk about Nova Prospect. To me, this house will always be the scariest thing in this game. Why? Look at it, man. It just sits alone and desolate on a cliff. Overlooking the ocean. Empty and abandoned for probably, oh my god, for probably the entire time since the war, if not even before. But something happened here. It intrinsically invites you. It makes you curious about it because it's the only thing in the area. And when you get here, it's disturbingly silent. I think there may be a zombie encounter up here. But now it feels more like what it always felt like. In this thing, it's almost a relief once you fight an enemy. Even the flashlight seems to be a little bit more temperamental here, like it's trying to warn me to leave. Something that's desolate amid the desolation. Something that... it stands out so much along this vast coast. And when you're here, it's like it invites you while every warning bell in your head is going off that something isn't right about it. Like I said, it may have an enemy encounter, but you leave unsatisfied. You're trying to rack your brain, trying to figure out what's wrong with it, and you just leave thinking, no, that's not it. Straight through the roadblock. Straight through the other roadblock. Oh, hey, we took a souvenir. And that souvenir is really cramping our style. Yeah, get out of here, loser. Get slid. Ooh. I almost got slid myself. Let's see that windmill. We're coming up on something else. Okay. How are we getting around this? Very good possibility we end up going up and over. I feel like we should at least try. Yep. Okay, that wasn't so bad. It's actually brilliant the more I think about it, these open levels. These times where you're just gaining a lot of distance really quickly. I mean, because you would think that a game like this, where you're always within your own perspective, would be, by definition, fairly limited. But Half-Life, through 2 separate vehicle sections, without feeling entirely like a road game, made a believable amount of distance between us and the city. Oh my god. My hand just scared the crap out of me. Why did it do that? I'm my own poltergeist. I really am my own ghost. But what I was saying was, we realistically, over hours of gameplay, see that gradient from dense urban infrastructure into the country. I'm just saying, this could be a spot where we bunker up for the night. Or it would be if this night would ever end. Still, thank you very much, ATV. I call you the ATV because that's what I know the sound's for now. But I think here is where we part ways. You know, usually a Dark Soul journey ends at a lighthouse. Okay, we'll go out through that door down there and descend the cliff face, but of course, it would be a huge wasted opportunity if we didn't climb this thing, wouldn't it? Any need? Not really. I think I'm good on supplies for now. Wow, it really does look like the sea is endless. Provided you begin from about 500 feet that way, because before that there's a clear box that defines the boundary. It's a really good thing that lens isn't on, or we would be having a real bad time right now. Oh, I am so tempted to take the ultimate high dive. But as I recall, the oceans of Half-Life are actually very populated. What's more disorienting than a giant spiral staircase? A giant spiral staircase that you don't actually move your body to turn down. Okay, now this is where things are going to get a little bit dicey, I think. Yep, oh, come on. Okay, thankfully we survived that. Some of these environments are starting to get so big, maybe we should start using better flashlight strength. Maybe even improve the visibility. There we go. I mean, we've had vehicles for so long, having to stop and continue on foot. Well, it's a taste of power, and the fact that both vehicle segments are early on It feels like we've lost something. I mean, our time with the Resistance may be short, or rather, our time on our own may be short. But it felt like we built ourselves up and now we're knocked back down. At this point, just like in real life, I'm avoiding stepping on the cracks more out of habit than anything. Now that I think about it, have we seen any birds yet? I was just sort of going back to my thoughts from the first time I explored this world, and I was wondering whether it would still do zombies, whether it would still do antlions, do non-human enemies still count as alone, and I was glad to see that, no, it is truly an empty experience. We have at times been able to hear birds, but can we see them? Well, I doubt it. I think the seagulls would be all over the place here. They're all over the place everywhere else. Is there enough room for us to jump up there from here? Well, there's not going to be now. What is going on with this box? Well, look. It may be possible to place you down here, right? There we are. Yep, just made it. Yep, can't make it. But it doesn't matter. All I care about is getting through here. I can practically feel how old and decayed this all is. Being blasted by salt air for decades with no one to maintain it. It's crazy how getting closer to something that's 20 years old makes it feel more real and more timeless. I mean, you would think that something that's so aged in a place like gaming, it would feel like you would be able to point out the flaws more. But oddly enough, even this, even something so far away from what we know as reality, your brain will do a lot of the work for you. It'll adapt it for you. I think there's so many interesting things you can learn about human psychology from video games. Just putting us into situations that we would never experience in real life and seeing how the mind copes, seeing what it does with it. I think we should be getting pretty close to Safe Haven by this point, because I believe this was the first encounter with an antlion guard. Yes, which means right over here is our exit. Remember what I talked about the inconsistent nature of the emptiness? Sometimes we find the lights on and machines whirring, sometimes, like in the city, the exact opposite. and sometimes a fire burning. One of the few things that should have no two ways about it. Someone was just here. And yet we're never any closer to meeting someone. Look at the way this canyon just or not canyon, but cave slants upward, almost like vaulted ceilings. Feels like the earth itself is making way for the chosen one. And indeed, I believe in the campaign, this would be the beginning of our assault, our sort of lateral D-Day on Nova Prospekt. Yeah, you remember those trains we saw in the train station at the beginning, the prison train? Those were coming here. Feels like we could have saved ourselves a lot of time. To be fair, we wouldn't have had this cool arsenal of weapons. So we probably just would have been probed and prodded and turned into a stalker. Nothing but the cliffs, the bunkers, and those power lines overhead, ever present. So, no need to waste any time. Let's start walking up the beach. I will say I've always had a bit of a better time with this mod in the earlier stages of the game. And I think, for me personally, my tastes, the best parts will always be the waterways and the city itself. But thankfully, those who know Half-Life 2 know we will be seeing it again before long. Which is good, because the city segments are the ones that have been some of the most expanded on in this mod. Man, how exhausting. I've taken a couple of small breaks in the middle of all this, but for the most part, ever since the moment I woke up, all day, this has been all I've been doing. And it gets to that point where you almost can't imagine a time before this. I mean, it's a sensation that I sometimes get from, like, Gary's mod maps. But there is no more long-form VR exploration than this. At this point, stopping to recharge the controllers as much as I can in these short breaks almost feels like mid-air refueling. Thing is, though, VR definitely takes a physical toll after a while. The eye strain of being on my feet for like 5 hours at a time, and there's still a couple hours to go, I think. This place always gives me the creeps. Funny thing is, you can tell that it's much older construction than the front-facing Combine structures that are in the front of this. And you know, now that I think about it, that's really confusing. If we're somewhere in like Eastern Europe, what coast is this? Are we facing north or something? Half-Life is practically fantasy anyway. It takes place on Earth, sort of, but the geography is whatever's needed. So you become so used to doing these levels under fire. Often it can feel like you're going through a place with so much, like, new and exotic architecture. See, you become so used to going through these levels under fire that when you don't have to worry about those distractions, so often you feel like you're going through something you've never seen before. You'd swear it wasn't here. That's a warning sign, but it kind of reminds me of a plaque on a historical site, which I imagine is probably just what this would have been. Oh, hey, I never realized these things actually have lights. We're going up there. Wait, is it still doing the thing? No, it is not actually doing the thing. So when I played the original version in flat screen, I noted that in your peripheral vision you could see the lights on in the tower up above. And there they are. Never mind, I guess I just had to get a little closer. Only now it's no longer a peripheral vision thing. I've just realized there's no ambiance. No wind, no nothing. It's completely still. I guess normally when you're coming through here, there would be gunfire and intense music and antlions swarming all over here. Well, when you take that away, there's nothing to distract you. Soundtrack, anytime you like, you can kick back in. Are we at the end of it again? I think we are. Okay, back to start. We're gonna see how many soundtracks long Half-Life 2 is. So far, we played through it twice. Although, almost didn't make it. Although, to be fair, it was a little while before we started playing songs. I believe it was down in the sewers. Yep. 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 Oh boy, that's gonna tumble weirdly. Yep. Well, I guess we can put up the sound volume at this point, right? Yeah, 100% that soundtrack is tied to game volume. Makes it very hard to do the on-the-fly mixing that's needed. You know, when I used to do theater work, I was always amazed how people would just essentially run vertically up a wall when it came to climbing ladders. I always thought those people were insane, doing it completely untethered. You... I really like that we could see this whole thing we would have to scale from a distance. It doesn't look that bad from far away until you're actually trying to climb it, and each individual component is a challenge. I do wonder what Nova Prospect's history is prior to Combine occupation. Definitely feels like the kind of place that might be haunted. Hey, with all their advanced technology and knowledge of the ways of the universe, do you think the Combine know about ghosts? Seriously, I wonder if it was actually occupied and in use as a prison prior to the war. They might mention it in-game. I think Alex says something to the effect of like it was a prison, it's something much worse now. Look at those bright lights on in the windows. Something tells me that's no longer going to be the case the very moment we get inside. But those windows on with the dark, dark shadow of the building. And just in time for those piano keys, it feels like I'm entering a creepy old house on the hill story. We can collect some health from in here. You know what this whole mod reminds me of? My brother started doing this thing, and now I do it. It's incredibly relaxing, where it's basically these many, many hour-long streams of just trains. Just GoPros mounted to the front of trains going through snowy wastelands, across Siberia, Alaska, just everywhere. And you're just along for the ride. Throw on some nice ambient tracks, and you've got essentially this. See, in Half-Life 2, you've always got people pushing you along, telling you where you need to go and why. Will where I'm going be over this, please? Thank you. But yeah, in Half-Life 2, you've always got people telling you where to go and why. Here, it feels much more innate. Of course, it's a linear game. There's only one way you can really go. But at times like this, it almost feels like you were drawn here. You're on a train in the middle of the city, and all you know is that somewhere miles away, through the canals and down the beach along the coastline, there's an empty prison that is calling out to you. And then once you find it, you don't know what you're going to find within. But nevertheless, you're drawn deeper inside. This is dream logic. It's knowing but not knowing. Everything is intrinsic. Everything is intuitive, and yet the details aren't known to you. There's this one line that's always stuck with me in Mulholland Drive. That David Lynch film, and I am of course talking about that one scene. The scene where this character describes a dream he had about a monstrous person that's hiding behind the diner that they're having that conversation in. And he talks about how he knows that person is there. He can see them through the wall. That's how he describes the dream. Now is not the moment to have a poltergeist. Well, there's never a convenient time for a poltergeist, but least of all when you're relaying a creepy story. I love how I check my health like I'm looking at the time. Like, okay, I'm pretty good. It's fine o'clock. I don't have to stop and get any resupplies from these side buildings. This place reminds me of one of the first times I went like really, truly, seriously urban exploring. And I remember pulling up to this huge building and feeling almost a sense of vertigo staring up at it. And we didn't even go inside that day, but we walked around the grounds. It was a big hospital. We walked around the side, and we went past a decaying old chain link fence, and you could see like basketball poles and light poles. They were all rusted. The things they used to be were almost unrecognizable because the actual fixtures weren't there anymore. But if you looked on the ground, you could see the faded lines of, like a basketball court. And I remember thinking, like, that sense of vertigo hadn't left me, and there was just a sense of weight to it where I was like, patience walked right here. I'm in a place where, had I been here at a different time in history, for most of this place's history, I would have been in a lot of trouble. But now, today, I can just do it. There's a lot of apocalyptic media that really makes me think about the concept of institutions and the things that we sort of take for granted and the things we just accept as facts of reality that are entirely human constructs. So there's a personal story that I always think of with relation to this. Years and years ago, like 20 years ago, I went on a camping trip with the Boy Scouts. And we went upstate, we canoed out to this island on a lake, and we camped out there for a few days. And we were all set up there, it was comfy cozy, and there was this one group that had these camping stoves, and they brought a ton of hamburgers and hot dogs. And, everybody, of course, brought their own food to make, but over the couple of days, word spread around this little island that, hey, go talk to these guys over here. If you want a hamburger or a hot dog any time of the day, they'll make you one because they've got a huge excess. And so that became the thing, Sometimes at night, people would be passing by your camp and they're like, hey, we're going over to these guys' tent to get a hamburger. You want one? And it became something of an institution. Everybody just knew if you go over here, you can get hot dogs. If you go there right now, do you know what there is? Nothing. It's dark, it's quiet, but for the sound of the birds and the crickets, there's nothing there. At one point, it was so accepted that, hey, free burgers and hot dogs right here, and now there's nothing. You'd never know that there ever was something. The same can easily be said of any bank or government. You just never know what the world is going to look like in 10, 20, 50, 100 years. I get a stupid amount of joy out of the fact that damage scales with the swing. Sorry, that just looked like the kind of door that a shadow might cross in front of as you approach. For a second, I was getting real Waverly Hills / Mountain Massive feelings from this. Don't you hate it when you accidentally pick up a whole bench one-handed? Really, I just don't know my own strength. Okay, let's get the stuff out of the way in a much more expedient fashion. Nope. That is the opposite of expedient. Get out when I drop you. Thank you. This is all very, very open, isn't it? Normally it's a whole battle, a series of doors and locks that need to be opened. But here it's allowing us to breeze right on through. You know, it's only now I think about how earned the Nova Prospekt section is in Half-Life 2. You were so close to being sent here as a prisoner to be tortured and dissected in the beginning. Instead, you pretty much arrive right on schedule the next day, just leading an army and causing this place's downfall. I am keeping my flashlight on at times when it may seem unnecessary, simply because of the fact that certain games tend to record like a bit darker than what I was seeing, and I can boost that to an extent in post, but really it's easier to save that stuff if the darks aren't like truly dark. So if I can like just cast some light into those shadows, there'll be a bit more recoverable information. You gonna open? You are. Let's look around a little bit, because we already missed a turn back there. It's actually kind of foreshadowed when you're coming through here that it is worse than a prison, simply because, despite being a prison, something the Combine would obviously have use for, these cells are obviously not in use. I mean, you've got these security checkpoints and all, but there's nobody in the cells, half the doors aren't even on. This place is in much more disrepair than they would normally tolerate for their facilities. It's because they're not really using this part of the facility. What is that piled up in the corner? Oh, it's all concrete pieces. For a second I thought things were piled. The soundtrack, every time it comes on, I can't help but think I'm on the floor of my childhood room again. Something about it just puts me mentally right back there. And then as soon as I catch myself thinking that, I'm forced to think about how, again, every decision I have made between then and now leads me to this moment here. Saying these things to all of you. This area has always creeped me out because, Combine or no, doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? A hidden area in the back of the laundry room of a prison. And some kind of slaughter took place back there, as evidenced by the massive river of blood. This is just a straight up Urbex map once you get past all the enemies. Can I start a fire? Really, it's a question I find myself asking in many situations. Well, maybe if I find some flammable materials. I feel like something like this shouldn't ignite that easily. Like, that's kind of a massive safety risk. Storage closet converted into a torture chamber. Okay, so maybe they do use these rooms for something. Alright, I think it's time for us to move on. I think we've seen enough. More Voidwalker achievement progress. I swear we had like 4 of those before we were even after the initial streets. And another 4 through essentially the entire rest of the game. I'm convinced now that it is for finding hidden areas. Okay, this is another place for the grav gun to shine. Just because we can't pick it up doesn't mean we can't move it. I can't believe how recently it feels that there was so much hype for Half-Life 2 to come out. I remember seeing pictures of it in magazines and thinking, wow, this looks so real. But it was one of those things, you know, it was on PC. I was a PS2 kid, so I didn't really think about it very much. I mean, it was cool that it existed, but I never really thought that I would be able to play it. I thought that would always remain too rich for my blood. I mean, who would have thought? 4 years until I was playing it myself? And what, like 16, 17 until I was in it like this? Well, I suppose 20 to be really in Half-Life 2 itself like this. Although I think the VR conversion has been out for a couple of years. Ow. I am so far away from that. Although, you know, if you've ever been near fire, the thing that strikes you is from just how far away it starts to really burn. If anything, video games have given us the unrealistic expectation that you have to be touching the fire. I remember as a kid believing, from movies, that there can be a huge explosion right next to you. So long as you don't touch the flames, you'll be fine. Just within the last year or so, I watched with my friend Matthew the movie Con Air. It's such good fun, but there's a scene where Nicolas Cage dives through a small window in a door, and it's to get away from an explosion, and the door is actively exploding while he's jumping through it. It's basically a video of him dying, but he just sort of is fine. Shrapnel doesn't exist in movies, is what I'm saying. Right about here is usually a moment of relief. This is where you meet with Alex. Ooh. I never quite looked up to see that control room before, but I'm pretty sure that's where we're going. Luckily, our chariot awaits. Every time I'm in an elevator, I feel like it's my moment to rest. Half-Life 2 is not that long a game, especially when you remove all the threats. But it still feels like, you know, I've got a schedule to keep. I'm like... I was just stalked by a box I was carrying. Okay, let me walk you through my thought process there. I was walking. I was thinking about how it actually feels creepy if you linger too much. It almost feels like something is following, waiting to catch you. And then I hear a drag, and I look around. I'm like, where is that? And I look a little further to see what's behind me, and I see something moving behind me, and it's you. Oh, wow, it simulates weight a little bit. Okay, I don't believe I have to do anything with this. I think that was mostly Alex's specialty, was working with Combine terminals. Wait. So this is clearly... Ow! This is clearly progression path. That was about exploration. This is exploration. I know I'm not looking into every nook and cranny. It's just I already know this is going to be like a very long video to begin with. And I admire that there are a lot of opportunities to include Easter eggs that the developer isn't really taking. And I think the reason for that is because there's a steadfast commitment to making sure that the alone experience remains alone. It doesn't introduce any lightheartedness that the player themselves doesn't choose to introduce. Yeah, I remember. There's a vent back here. We don't have to take it. We can see a kitchen somewhere with a freshly cooked meal. This place is taunting us with visions of things we can't have. Give. Well, I actually got something. Come on. Give. Oh, it's not gonna give. More blood, almost like they're keeping it in the cans. They've spilled their raspberry jam everywhere. Okay, so where am I going then? Maybe I do have to go through that vent. Now, I think the best thing for knocking out vents in the future is going to be the gravity gun. If we have to, simply because I can't get leverage with the crowbar in here. There we go. Who needs leverage when you have infinite distances? Oh, I know where we are. It's funny how not even the turrets are here. Can't exactly be considered human, but I guess in their ability to recognize others, they become enough that their presence may be something of a comfort, and so they've got to go too. Or maybe they're just humanized too much because they bear too much of a similarity to the Portal 2 turrets. I knew we couldn't go this way before. This is an entirely new area creatively. See, these are some of the most interesting things about this mod. The freedom actually giving us the ability to see things that we simply couldn't before. Not even things that were just distant, but entirely fabricated for this. Being able to see that hard edge where Combine construction merges onto ours. The Combine are almost like a cancer cell or a parasite, latching onto human systems and just leeching their resources while leaving a husk behind. One of the most disturbing things I think about Half-Life 2 is just how quickly all of this happens. There's all of human history, everything we've built and worked towards, the entire arc of the human story. And now here's something entirely different outside of the realm of our conception and just changes everything. The whole script flipped out of nowhere. Well, thankfully the water isn't electrified. At least I don't think so. Wait, can I grab with both hands? No. That was something in Half-Life Alyx. In order to simulate the weight of heavy objects, they had it pull your hand down, but made it so that you could manipulate them like normal if you held it with both. Yeah, at a certain point, I just do not have the patience for the crowbar anymore, do I? I believe it's hereabouts that we have our second turret tower defense section. After a certain point, I find I just run out of things to say. I find that the eerie feelings brought on by this mod, and to an extent the comfiness, is lost a bit towards the latter stages of the game, and that's not the mod's fault. It's simply the way the game is designed, where the earlier stages are all about introducing you to the world and showing you what it is and can be. Later on, it's more about applying that knowledge. It's more action-y. And therefore, the levels are designed to keep things moving a bit more, and I think that's what I have to do now. The problem with that is, now I've got to find a way out without any scripted event guiding me to an exit. Where are we going? That looks a good spot. Yeah, just allow this to take up valuable cell real estate. I feel like by having a creepy basement like this just off of a cell block, all you're doing is asking for somebody to end up down here in the dark and die-harding all your guards when they come to search for you, right? It's like the Outlast trials, you just end up with somebody living in the walls. Here we are. For some reason, I remembered all of this being a lot longer. Like, I remember Nova Prospekt being a whole section of the game, and I suppose it is. And it's because we would have been mired down fighting for every inch of those hallways. But here we are at our second teleport. It's kind of funny in Half-Life 2's design that there's 2 places in the game where you are teleported, where you're not physically walking from one place to the next. In the first of those, you might as well be because it's just putting you behind the window from where you started. And in the second case, well, it's a lot more than a physical teleport. Interesting to note that in the game, somebody had to start this up. So it's kind of like someone is now. Like the place was just waiting for me. I'm back, everybody. And I was last here and not so long ago. You know, oddly enough, this place feels darker than when I left. I was gonna say, if Horror Baby is still here, but no, they wouldn't be. Technically, this is an entirely new map. And we're still watching the kitchen. Man, everybody's tuning into that show. Hey, we can bobble the bobblehead. In virtual reality. Yeah, I'm sorry. I realize that over time my commentary has gotten a bit more lighthearted. I guess I'm just getting used to it. Believe me, it doesn't feel that way. But over time, I guess because I'm trying to avoid being repetitive, I'm ruminating on it a little bit less. This is sealed off again. And so I think we're just retracing our steps. It feels like so recent. I wasn't even going to do a full playthrough of this again. I was just going to showcase the fact that a VR mod is available by playing some of the bonus maps. It was literally spur of the moment that I decided to basically remake this in VR. But there's a reason. I realized that it's been a year. It feels like it was just a few months ago. Hello? This elevator isn't working. Okay, there we go. I loaded the map again and it finally worked. Right back to where we started. In the back half of Half-Life 2, you are always retracing your steps. But it feels so different now. Not only are we retracing those steps a bit more directly than in the past, but we're also doing so in a way that feels more like a recurring dream now, or like we got something wrong and now we need to come back and right it. In a world that, by its nature, is absent of all noise and does not speak to you whatsoever, it always stands out to me just how specific some of the messages I take away are. Even when there's nothing, it always feels like there's something. Okay. We are going to try to use this ladder. Okay, whoop. It's sort of working. Sorta. I'm just in a crouched position, sideways crawling down this ladder. But hey, we managed to save a lot of our health. You know what? These streets are wide enough. I think that maybe they call for a slightly stronger flashlight. Perfect. I'm glad I waited until now to get this perspective. It's the perfect emptiness, no damage, nothing to indicate why. It simply is empty. Not even a decay that comes from being empty for a long time. Even still, it definitely doesn't feel like a recent abandonment. And the fact that it will never even tell you why. After a while, you just stop questioning it. What's the use? And of course, in the several hours since I left here, not a thing has changed. Even if I changed anything, those changes may have been reverted. This was the first time I noticed that this was doing big changes beyond just swapping the color palette and removing entities. Because this is where the whole game changes. This is when the resistance is active. There's fighting and fires in the streets, but when we return in this, nothing. I spent the whole mod curious as to what it was going to do when we got back here. And finding out that the answer was nothing, that it's exactly as we left it, was both, well, creatively really exciting, because it shows a commitment to keeping it this way, but at the same time devastating, because there was some part of my mind that thought there would be relief once we got here. Something had to change. And it just didn't. You know what? I think I'd like to get on the train again. Actually, I don't think I can. I think if I go back far enough, all I'm going to find is a loading screen and that window that I dropped from. I like to imagine that if I were in this situation, this would kind of be my safe spot. That train car would be my safe spot. But I would go out on my expeditions, do my journey, and then always come back here to rest and reflect on it. Okay. Well, then I think the only thing we can do is check down that alley. Can't help but note those very open windows. Apparently, this is considered a hidden area. Or at least an exploration area. Forget the soundtrack. I'm just going to enjoy the silence for a couple minutes. Many games will do this. Many stories in general, where they have to end where they began. There will be a return to something that was familiar in the beginning, but I guess the idea usually is to highlight how things have changed in the story. In a mod like this, it only highlights how much you and your mindset have changed. especially doing it all at once. Huh. I thought it was just a dark night outside, and then I realized those windows are actually boarded. Moments ago, I was running along a beach heading to an abandoned prison. How do things change this much? I see those indestructible windows are still intact. Watermelon! I finally got myself a delicious meal that I can eat. Okay, come right here. Can you imagine how good this would taste right now? I haven't had anything to drink either, except for that can that I picked up from the garbage earlier. Locked. Well, I think that's the end of the road for here. Man, running through all this, it's surprising how out of the way all this is. But there's still more to see. Never mind, there is no more to see. That skylight would lie to you, lead you to believe that there's a much brighter day outside. Well, there could be. There could be, had we used a setting. I needed precisely 1 HP. Gimme that. Oh, we can come through this cut-through. Look at that. The one activated streetlight. A darkened one right beside it, though another lit one further beyond. Closer to the Citadel. There is no ambient sound whatsoever, and that's not just a city thing. Because earlier when we were here, there was plenty of ambient sound. It really does feel like something has changed. Something fundamentally different, and I can't quite explain what. More Voidwalker. And I believe the patch notes said that this was like one of the big expansions, was having more interiors on the city to explore. All this just to poke around in that one room. Well, good thing there's no railings. Makes for a quick descent, at least. I feel like I'm some kind of children's cereal mascot whenever I go to turn and I bounce like that. A courtyard is a panopticon of paranoia. Oh, right here. hiding around the corner. Well, obviously I have to have a look. Anybody else getting a real bad feeling from this place? Me too. Well, I mean, it's got a watermelon, so it can't be all bad. Being on the top floor of an apartment building and the windows completely boarded, so it may as well be in a cave. Something about that does not sit right. It's just like what I said about basements. It's an even more lost part of a lost world. Now there's an unsettling thought to enter my head. The knowledge that somewhere is an empty room that no one perceives. What is with this place? It's just a series of angled doors leading to a room. Another apartment building. They're just everywhere. I don't know, is it more courteous if a boarded apartment has lights on or less? I mean, it's a waste of power, but nobody's paying the bill. Okay, I was testing to see if there was glass. It passed the test. Alright, screw this place. We've gotten around the barricades, so that helps. Getting around that barricade is going to be a little more difficult. Still, it's very much a journey in this game, having to go so far away from the Citadel only so that you can return. Your ultimate goal right there from the beginning, but you simply haven't become the person you need to be yet to go take it on. Here, there is no reason. Here, it's more like it's pulling us back. Almost like we were trying to escape it first. Oh. That flicker did not give me good feelings about this hallway. And the fact that it's so well lit, the fact that it's so silent, it just feels more like an ambush. It feels like one of those training maps in the original Rainbow Six. They have those kill houses where you can just go and clear rooms against the AI. And I always thought it was really creepy how it's just this series of boxes over and over. But there doesn't appear to be anything in this place at all. We can open the gate. We don't need to open the gate, but we can open the gate. There's all these shop fronts. But more likely what we want to do is enter this building up the hill. There's just something about the buildings being illuminated only by my flashlight. Knowing that it was sitting entirely in darkness until the moment I arrived, and it'll go back to darkness after I leave. And something that's really easy to forget when the flashlight is literally tied to your point of view is how everything behind you is always as dark as what you're pushing into. This place looks like it was cozy once. And I am a pop rock every time I turn. A locked glass door. It's not frosted. What would you call this design? Either way, a distorted view of what's beyond. Normal from the look of it, but we simply can't get over there. Somehow being denied that, but still being able to see. That's a human choice. And it feels like one. Oh, never mind, here we are. It just wanted us to work for it a little more. Okay, now I don't know about you, but I get serious heebie-jeebies from these apartments. So I'm going to go ahead and put on some tunes, if you don't mind. You know, I've been sort of rushing through this because I knew I wouldn't have as much to say as the first time. But I think this might have actually taken a bit longer overall. Where am I going? There is the basement. A basement that's accessible from outside. Well, there's a subway station entrance here. Maybe we start from that. Yeah, that looks about right. No access to the underground tunnel. Wow, it really is vast. I wonder in this situation, if this happened to you, how long would it take to stop feeling something watching you over your shoulder? Like, seriously, you have to feel creeped out, wandering alone in the dark for all this time. Surely you'd sooner or later get over it. But how long would it take? And what would getting over it actually look like? It's treating us like a trained monkey, going long, long distances for a single piece of health. Okay, an exit from this place right here, or we could continue to wander. See what's all the way down here. As it turns out, nothing much. Pushing back that wall of darkness really emphasizes just how deep this really is. And again, it's the irrational feeling of being lost away from any help, even though I know there's no difference in help availability between my own bedroom floor and deep in a cave. Empty frames or photos of nothing. Very little difference, I guess. I understand they're just stock assets that they can throw up on the wall. But if this were a dream, there would be a strong connection between these showing up here and at that 3-story house. Oh, hey, it's you. You know, somebody was talking in the Discord the other day about how they kind of hate what that graffiti has become. It's sort of gone the route of all horror, or at least all horror that gets popular when it comes to iconography, where it becomes sort of a shorthand for spooky, and its meaning is sort of lost. Like they were talking about how originally it's supposed to be some sort of indication that others are aware of the G-Man. Oh, there is so much to see. A door in every direction. Oh yeah, this place has been greatly expanded. And I'm glad to see that the stashes have been expanded as well, I guess. No, they haven't. Well, it matters not. Hey, you. Okay, I don't know if I'm gonna search through everywhere. I'll look around a little more, but at a certain point I do have to keep it moving. These kitchen windows. All it does is create more foreground and more shadows when I shine my light around the corner. I can even see into the darkened apartments across the way. Hardly a light on in them. Yeah, this part of the game is definitely starting to come alive in this creator's vision for this mod. But right now I'm just trying to find the way out. My whole body is so sore. What if we come through here? Courtyards are often a safe bet. This whole city is starting to feel the same, and once more we're at a point where, without NPCs to guide us, we're essentially aimlessly wandering. I will say, if there is some value to adding all this extra exploration, it's simply in making it feel like this is aimless. Like you're just opening doors and going wherever, until sooner or later, inevitably, you end up where you need to. Well, I can think of one fast way down.
Major fracture detected.
Worth it.
Automatic medical systems engaged.
HEB suit, you're my only friend. But it seems we're not moving beyond here. Or we are, but no, I'm not going anywhere without seeing what's in that tunnel over there. Oh, nothing much. Except for one thing. Well, this is already worth it, isn't it? Right up to street level. Man, City 17 is so much richer by this vision, isn't it? Yeah, I definitely see it now. Not only are the interiors more varied, but also just the wandering as well. I had never realized that something that would properly make you feel alone was real urban sprawl. It's like it lets you explore all this extra space, just so it can hammer in just how alone you really are. And I guess at some point we were in our Tomb Raider era of infrastructure design. Okay, well, we're stuck behind here. But with the magic of VR, I can just reach through and do that. I'm pretty sure normally you need the grav gun. Tell you what the grav gun is good for. Okay, thankfully there's no collapse. Okay, I see the way up and over the pipes. I was just really hoping to not have to do all that. I do sort of like how effortlessly I can pick up and manipulate things with this. It's not like Garry's Mod, it's the opposite of Garry's Mod actually, where I have to basically reach directly into the core of something in order to move it. You need to brake. Come on. There we go. It even maintained its intactitude. Wow, this thing is really holding up. I think we're gonna need some Destructomatics for this. There we go. Nothing can withstand the mighty crowbar. Apparently, nothing also needs to be accessed by the mighty crowbar. Good day, carry on. That box did nothing but be in my way. I want you all to learn a lesson from this. Oops. Okay, how are we negotiating this? Suppose, like that maybe? I suppose I should love video game protagonists for their ability to drop from 5 or 6 feet up and reliably land on a small beam. Pulling on the doors themselves is the problem. There we go. Unfortunately, the grav gun does not have a laser pointer. Oh, I remember this part. Not only is it some really creepy old infrastructure, I always tend to get lost in it. The thing about drains and sewer infrastructure is that it kind of can feel like a cathedral in a certain way. Of course, everything is much more functional than fashion, but the architecture ends up looking a little bit similar. So many curves and slants and high ceilings everywhere. There's a rich complexity to it, and everything does something, but it almost seems ceremonial if you don't know what any of it does. Well, I suppose the reflective power of waiting for an elevator is also done through a lift. Those mean the same thing. Whatever you call this. Funicular? I don't think that's right. Anyways, we're waiting for it. I've got my yoga mat on the floor, and oh, that feels so good. Oh, I cannot wait to climb into bed after this. Been on my feet for like 6 hours. Are you the angels coming to take me away? I'm ready. In the Bible, angels are depicted as barrels. Look, I didn't write the thing. Wow. Now we'll do that, and I'll do that, and away we go. Whew. To be honest, this feels kind of comfy. I mean, it's not really moving me too much, but I can imagine how this is almost like a cradle swaying back and forth. May have a hard metal floor, but after all this time, we're at the point where the bathroom floor feels like a great place to fall asleep. Now the question is, how are we getting up and out of here? I don't see a ladder. I don't see anything I can jump on. Never mind, I do see a ladder. Where do I go from here? You know, no matter how many times I play Half-Life 2, there's certain things that I just never remember how to do. Duck under you. Come on. I'm not going to be able to jump up this. I can't jump up that. Feels kind of important that I do. But it's going to be very difficult to do. Yeah, I just no-clip that. I'm at the point where any attempt at platforming gets 2 tries. That's all I'm willing to give it. Yep. All that to get back onto the streets. Thankfully, we never recalibrated our headlights, so it's just in the perfect order. You pulled out the Something's Wrong with This Place soundtrack just as my headlight flickered. You want to tell me a little bit about what that's about? I've also noticed that living in New York, one thing that unsettles me about City 17 is the fact that it's not covered in advertising. And so it makes me feel like I'm in an area that shouldn't be publicly accessible. Not that there's anything wrong with a place not being slathered in advertisements. It's probably a good thing. But, usually if you can't see stuff like that, it means you're not supposed to be there. The longer this goes, the more it starts to feel like the latter scenes of Inland Empire. A movie I reference all the time, and people go, oh, I'll have to check that out. And then they see that it's a 3.5-hour David Lynch movie, and they're like, okay, I'm good. Here we are. I had no idea we were so close. There's a symbolism here that I don't believe I've ever consciously picked up on. The human seat of power, and the massive power behind them. Like all of humanity is the sock puppet for the alien race. And once more, during actual gameplay, this would be a whole battlefield. And even now, it doesn't want us running straight for the front doors. But I get the feeling we're saving a lot of time here. It's all the stuff towards the end of Half-Life 2 that I always forget about, and this is something I found with a lot of childhood games. I have much deeper memories of the earlier stages of any game, because those are the ones that I would always replay. The result is that I know the earlier City 17, I know the canals like the back of my hand, and then a slow petering off of actual, like, concrete memories until this stuff is all really hazy. And then by the time you reach the Citadel, it practically feels like a different game. Hey, can this reach that? No, I guess not. Back to the streets. Apparently this whole thing, wow, they've added the area behind City Hall. What is that huge dark structure in the sky? Do you see it? There's almost like a seam in reality. But of course there's no way to get a good angle on it. Okay, well I guess we're heading back then. I'm not quite sure of how to get in. Ooh, unless... I might not be able to get the grav gun to look over that grav wall, or whatever you'd call it. The barrier. But maybe we can try throwing a grenade? Not what I wanted. No, nothing's gonna move that. Okay, so I guess front doors it is. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have to be pointed at the exact right spot or it wouldn't work? Okay. I may seem a little bit child-sized for now. I had to sit down. Like, to the point where when I went to sit, I basically collapsed into the chair. But show's gotta go on. I got other stuff to do today. Ooh, what are these? I don't believe we ever actually picked these things up. That one does not want to be picked up, clearly. So there's another example of a weapon we're getting late. Look at this place. Even the seat of power has all this damage. With the real power looking down straight into our guts. It's actually perfectly encapsulating Wallace Breen's character, isn't it? He's the ambassador to Earth, traded humanity for what he believes is a position of power. In reality, he's just the cow in charge of making sure all the other cows stay in the paddock. There's an illusion when you're up here, where it's almost like you're in amid H-back ancient ruins. Oh, hey. I was gonna say, I guess we are done because this thing spawns here. If you leave, but it doesn't matter now, I guess. Wow, this place is completely locked down. Come on, though. I know there's things to see. I mean, just imagine the valuable documents and such you could find. As well as whatever this thing is. You know, I never really thought to think about it. It's just kind of miscellaneous Combine stuff, isn't it? Look at this. There's actually a courtyard in the back. Or it's not a courtyard, but it is now. We made it one. A little bridge for ease of use. I can just imagine Breen being so annoyed that he has to walk from one end of this place to the other. Begged them for a bridge. And eventually they used like 1/1 billionth of their power to give him one. Or maybe it was even the Combine's idea. They said, listen, you can be so much more efficient if you can just walk straight from that side to this side. And Wallace was like, no, because there's so many opportunities to be shot from the street below. And the Combine were like, don't worry about it. You know, the physical pain of doing this video has really highlighted in my mind the plight of Gordon Freeman. I mean, I had been standing for like 5 or 6 hours. Has he slept since he woke up before going to work at Black Mesa? I'm not sure he has. Actually, you know what? He has. At the end of Half-Life 2 Episode 2, well, aside from losing consciousness a couple of times, pretty much one of his only periods of inactivity is on the helicopter after Episode 2. And I believe in that ending by this mod, that's actually where all of this happens. Can you imagine the piled-on stress? That is not a restful sleep whatsoever. However, it is a very deep one. Okay. Cross the bridge. And up and out of here. I just wish I knew what's meant to have changed now. Yep. Back to here. Well, there's a map transition, so hopefully that indicates positive things in my future. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I saw that little tear in the seat in low resolution, thought Horror Baby was behind the wheel. Although it is always worth mentioning that Horror Baby is forklift certified. So I'm not sure then. Did I ever have to go through City Hall? I really don't remember if this gate was closed before. Hardly matters now. Oh hey. Back into the vast tunnels. It almost looked like I could just skirt by here, but I don't think I'm going to be able to slip in. And look at the size of this. I have never appreciated it until now. I had only known this building as a bombed-out wreck. It's one of the more vertical areas in the game because this is where the encounter with not only all the Combine in this building takes place, but the encounter with the Strider outside. In other words, this building is Swiss cheese by the time you get to it. I can't believe the map creator actually took the time to put it back together. Question now is, how do we get out of it? Up, and away is usually a good bet. Map transitions are a good sign of progress. And with the expanded streets of the city, well, progress is not a guarantee ever. This has got to be the only part of the game that actually takes longer than in the original. Oh, there's just so much. There's just so much. Feels like a retirement home with day rooms and such, more than an apartment. Yeah, everyone's got their own spaces, but the common area is surprisingly developed. This isn't just an apartment building, it's a community. Alright, I definitely do not have time to be searching through every individual room, though. I'm not even sure if I have time to make my way out. Oh, man. This place is a maze. Straight down into a parking garage. That's how deep we're getting with this. No pun intended. It's just, I'd really like to progress with this at some point. Oh, you could spend a lot of time in this now. But I have been in this for so long, I'm not kidding. I started this before the sun rose today, and the sun is starting to set again. That's where we're at. Can't open here. I just got stuck in this building. Okay, down the street. Well, one thing that is a sure indicator of our progress. The Citadel. And there's that seam again. That's what it is. It's one of those massive cables running off of it. Well, we need to get to that wall. Look at this. This is where the nightmare drops the facade. Streets that just end in a wall. Not even giving us the illusion that there's any escape. Now that we're here, it's not going to let us go. After all, we've been running for so long. That pale blue light that exists in some spaces, sometimes without so much as a source. Maybe it's just me and my fatigue, but things just start to feel sickly the longer you spend here. Upon your return to City 17, you know, the square where you come out of the train station may be the same, but everything else is so much more well lit now. Gone is that low contrast, and you do feel a bit of an extra push this time.
Major fracture detected.
There's a momentum that I struggle to really explain.
Morphine administered.
Look at this. This tunnel was something they had no use for. And so when the Citadel was erected, they simply cut right through it. Do I try to go for the ramp? I feel like I'll gain too much momentum on the way down and just be flung right off. Oop. My God. Provided I even make it. The Index might be the worst controller for platforming. Sorry, Valve, I love your finger tracking and all that, but having a run and jump have like 8 different ways it can go wrong very easily is not ideal. It's like going to see the wizard. That was one of my big childhood fears. We're talking going back to the time I was like 3 years old. The walk to see the wizard down that big green hallway. Things that remind me of it tend to quite immediately remind me of it. And that metallic grinding sound reminds me so much of Terminator 2. Which, I'll be honest, even as a 3-year-old, I appreciate it as a sci-fi masterpiece. Yeah, there was no parental control on the things I watched. Now, I still remember, in my room as a very small child, I had a shelf with VHS tapes. And it had all kinds of things. It had, things like The Little Engine That Could and Tilly's Dragon. It also had Terminator 2 and Apocalypse Now. And I guess it's kind of a good thing the box art for Apocalypse Now never caught my interest. Okay, now we want to get in the pod going to the left. You know what? At this point, just take me. Ooh. Okay, yeah, this swinging animation does not do much to make me feel like I'm really in it. I also can't reach for my light. You'll forgive me if I'm not really too willing to start pressing buttons and potentially get out of this thing right now. I just realized something awesome. One of the most iconic parts of Half-Life 1 was the ride into base. Being on a train car and just seeing the world come alive around you. Half-Life 2 does a similar thing with its train station and first walk through City 17, but it's much more interactive. There's much more player involvement and exploration. But this is almost like a callback to that first time, where you're entirely helpless and just finally in the belly of the beast and seeing how it functions firsthand. You spent the entire game learning about them, and you've come back with so little, and this is still giving you so little to go off of. They're terrifying in how mysterious they are, and it has the restraint to allow them to remain that way throughout the entire series. I mean, we know that it's bad. We know they rule with an iron fist and that they're enslaving everyone and creating megastructures. But you don't see just what they're capable of until this very moment, I think. There's a video essay I watched a year or two ago titled, like, Just How Bad is the Combine or something like that, and it's not even fanon or anything like that. It's incredible how much of this is the actual in-game lore. It's just that you're too busy being a hero to really pay much attention to it. It really is one of the most horrifying dystopias in sci-fi. And I think the beta art was much more reflective of that. I don't know why they chose to make the lighter game that they did. Oof. Maybe marketability, maybe just a general feeling about it. But there is definitely something to be said for what their plans were. Ugh. Goodbye, everything but the grav gun. Wait, I didn't see. Was there a pistol in there? I'm not sure if it's a stock animation. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no one to use it on. But we've got it now. Alright. I am ready to play some Garry's Mod. It's so weird that Garry's Mod is so the primary use case for this model now that I almost don't even see it as the super grav gun anymore. Alright, Dr. Green, I'm free. Or Dr. Breen. Whatever, I never got your name. You never greeted me when I first arrived. Also, you're long dead along with everyone else on Earth. Fancy place. I see all your power sources are still up and running. That explains why every fourth light is on. It is so earned. You come into this world feeling so helpless. Like, even if I am this prophesized one, what can I do? I mean, I don't even know what the Combine are when I arrive. By the end of it, you're rushing up through their home base, and you're practically unstoppable. Sending legions and legions of guys after you, and there's nothing they can do. And they all just fall before you one by one. I've created a pretty dangerous situation for myself, actually. I realize that now. Oh, right. It also turbocharges your suit. I'd forgotten. Armor is always a bit more humble, I think, compared to weapons. But it's an important part of the equation. How cool is that? Hey, we're here. That might be the one safety feature I've seen in this entire world, and it's in the Combine base. You know, this world is mine. Nobody's coming to stop me. There is nobody saying I can't just ride this up and down all day long, forever and ever. And if aliens from another world ever stop by and want to see what's going on here, I can just be like, hey, it's me. I ride the elevator. You can have the rest of the planet, but the elevator's mine. Oh man, humans were not meant to be in VR for this long. I think I'm at something like 8 hours for today. Can I get on an express elevator, please? So many stops, it's like being on a public bus. Oh, you probably want me to grab that or something. There we go. So do the Combine have their own grav gun? Is there any other way to use their equipment? Because this thing really has proven to be the gift that keeps on giving. Hey, listen to that. I think the game is playing its own soundtrack now. I never went back and turned it back on again from the menu. Everything is full. I mean, why wouldn't there be soundtrack now? This is our battle. I believe in this moment there's a wall of Combine, even a Strider, between us and the other end. And even that doesn't feel quite so dangerous anymore. Down a hall of pods where countless people have been taken and cut apart. It's almost like we're doing them proud. Oh, are we going for one more ride before we're out of here? Very well. If I remember rightly, this leads right to the top. So I'm willing to play ball for a little longer. If anything, it's kind of cozy. My muscles and joints could use the rest. You hear that, Dr. Breen? You're making me cozy before I kill you. Metaphorically in my mind, by reaching the place where I killed you for real in actual real life. All I'm doing is making conversation and people get all mad at me. And by mad at me, I mean give me the silent treatment by hiding everyone on Earth. It's very petty behavior. This elevator almost sounds like an out-of-tune music box, doesn't it? Well, that's the thing about an abandoned alien megastructure. It just keeps working. So there's hardly any difference, although... Getting to this place in the night and seeing the lights of a living city down there, it does make it feel like the whole thing was just holding its breath and waiting for me to leave. Look at that. It's mesmerizing and horrifying to think that everything changes when I'm not looking. But from all the way over here, it's like it forgot and dropped the charade. Ow. Jerk. Alright, well, now I gotta go metaphorically kill you. Imagine the commute to get here every morning. Well, I guess this is the closest we're gonna get, huh? Oh, Dr. Breen, Barney said to tell you something from him? Yep. Okay, well, that's good enough revenge for me for now. In the meantime, I think it's time for this nightmare to end. How about you? Right here at the end of it all. But you know the way it is doing these things. You gotta go down to go up. If anything has changed in this mod, I'm impressed by the number of abandoned apartments and working elevators that have been added since my last experience. Well, we get to end this with my favorite. platforming. Let's keep it moving. As far as I'm concerned, this is just one more obstacle before I'm out of here. Can't get to you yet. Hopefully you're another story. Whew. Do not ask me to do anything precise with these controllers. Up to here. I can barely see the glass I'm meant to be walking on. You're gonna stop on that side. I'm trying to see the patterns. No, you first. Up to here. And I think this whole time you're getting, like, shot at or something. For now, it's not my concern. No, for now, that's the fastest I've ever gotten through here. And there is no resistance whatsoever. Well, that sure was easy. Let's get to the center for a show. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa!
HEV damage sustained. Major fracture detected.
They actually show the fall. And us having an out-of-body experience rising to our feet. Look at that. An instantaneous transition into Half-Life 2 Episode 1. But I think this journey has been long enough. After all, I started this in the dark, and if I lift my headset, I end this in the dark. If I had played continuously, well, first of all, I would have been done sooner, but if I had played entirely continuously with no breaks, I would have had no idea. It would be like no time passed at all. And that's what this is like. It's Half-Life 2 in a locked state. Remember, we're not just revisiting the world of Half-Life 2, we're revisiting our memories of Half-Life 2. And that works really well with the Gordon's Dream idea because it's also like us having a nightmare about something we've done a million times. I think the choice of soundtrack really conveys the mood that this whole thing is going for. It's the kind of thing that could, on some level, be relaxing in the way that a depression walk is. In that it doesn't feel good. It's just not acutely bad. It's just a more general badness that you may find some comfort in wallowing in. At the same time, the imagery can be quite comforting. How creepy it is probably going to depend on the person, but for me, I didn't really get very much of that for most of the game. No, for the most part, it was just like a bad dream. The sense that something is wrong, and not for the obvious reasons, but having this sinking feeling and unable to place exactly what it is. Look at us, 0 suit and 8 health. We barely survived that. It made sure we felt that. And I've got to say, I wasn't going to do this again because I thought, look, it's VR and that's cool, but I've already played Half-Life Alone. But I hadn't played it like this. It is definitely different enough that I do consider it a pretty different experience. An enhanced one, even. It allows you to appreciate these environments for all the loving detail that was always here. It allows the vastness of Half-Life 2 to really come across when you can visualize your place in it. And all the little feedback bits make traversing the world actually feel like something you've done, and not just held down the W key through. I kept comparing it with Silent Hill, and that's definitely partly just because I had it on the brain from just finishing Silent Hill 2 myself. And this is the same thing. It leaves you with your thoughts to constantly ruminate on why you're feeling this way. You've got hours and hours to think with very little in the way of distractions, and when those distractions come, they tend to be welcome. Well, anyway, this was definitely worth revisiting, and I don't know if this is going to be out publicly for VR by the time you see this, but definitely keep an eye on this mod at the link in the description. It's a mod that's really so much more than its simple description. And if you like this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more creepy and comfy content. If you have any ideas for other videos you think I should do, the best place to suggest that will be at the Discord, which I will link in the description. If you want to try this mod out for yourself, that link will also be in the description. If you want to support me on Patreon, that link will be in the description. And as always, I will see you in the next one.